suspected of killing his daughter and disposing of her body, but neither he nor his wife have been charged with any crime. And though they must both fear what lies ahead, for now they remain free.
I know I'm innocent. Gerry knows he's innocent. We know each other are innocent.
Did Kate hide the truth about Madelein's death? Was she protecting her husband, Gerry, or caught in a larger conspiracy? Her calm demeanor, refusal to answer police questions, and the cadaver dog's findings fueled speculation. Join us as we dive into the theories, evidence, and truth surrounding Kate McCann in this enduring mystery. Don't miss it. The answers might shock you. Welcome back to our deep dive into the Madeleine McCann case, focusing on Kate McCann, the mother at the heart of this enduring mystery. To understand the theories surrounding Kate, we first need to explore who she is, her actions on the night Madeleine vanished, and how her behavior shaped public perception. Kate McCann, born Kate Hilly, was a 39-year-old general practitioner from Leicester, England, in 2007. Married to Gerry McCann, a cardiologist, the couple had 3 children: Madeleine, aged 3, and 2-year-old twins, Sean and Amelie. Known for her dedication to her family and career, Kate was described by friends as warm, caring, and deeply maternal. Yet, after Madeleine's disappearance, her life transformed from that of a private individual to a figure scrutinized by millions worldwide. On May 3, 2007, the McCanns were on a family holiday at the Ocean Club Resort in Praia da Luz, a quiet coastal town in Portugal's Algarve region. They were joined by a group of friends, later dubbed the Tapas 7, for a week-long getaway. The group followed a routine each evening. They dined at the resort's tapas restaurant, about 50 meters from the apartments where their children slept. The parents took turns checking on the children every half hour or so, a decision that would later spark intense debate. At around 10 p.m., Kate returned to apartment 5A to check on her children. She entered the bedroom where Madeleine and the twins were sleeping and immediately sensed something was wrong. Madeleine was gone. The window in the children's bedroom was wide open, and the shutter was raised, a detail Kate reported to the police as evidence of a possible break-in. In a state of panic, Kate alerted Gerry and their friends, shouting that Madeleine had been taken. The resort staff and local police, the Polícia Judiciária, were quickly notified, and a search began. Kate's immediate reaction was one of desperation and grief. Witnesses described her as distraught, running through the resort, calling Madeleine's name. She clutched Madeleine's favorite toy, a pink stuffed animal called Cuddle Cat, which became a poignant symbol in the case. Kate's insistence that the open window pointed to an abduction shaped the early narrative, with the police initially treating the case as a kidnapping. However, as hours turned into days, questions arose about the circumstances and Kate's role. The media descended on Praia da Luz, turning the McCann's private tragedy into a global spectacle. Kate, as Madeleine's mother, became a focal point. Her appearance in early interviews, often holding Cuddle Cat and speaking calmly, drew attention. To some, her composure seemed unnatural for a grieving mother. Why wasn't she more visibly emotional? Why did she continue to carry Cuddle Cat, even after cadaver dogs later flagged it? Kate's actions in the immediate aftermath also drew scrutiny. She and Gerry quickly organized a media campaign to keep Madeleine's disappearance in the public eye. They established Madeleine's fund to support the search, raising millions with help from high-profile figures, including politicians and businesspeople. Kate's proactive role in the fund, coupled with her polished media appearances, led some to question whether she was hiding something. Was her calm demeanor a sign of strength or something more sinister? Another critical moment came in September 2007 when Kate and Gerry were named arguidos by the Portuguese police. During her interrogation, Kate refused to answer 48 questions, following her lawyer's advice to avoid self-incrimination. She did, however, directly deny harming Madeleine when asked. This refusal became a lightning rod for critics, who saw it as evidence of guilt or concealment. Online, posts speculated that Kate was protecting Gerry or hiding a darker truth. The open window Kate reported also became a point of contention. while she claimed it suggested an intruder. Investigators found no clear signs of forced entry, no fingerprints or damage on the shutter. The only fingerprints on the window belonged to Kate, consistent with her checking the scene. This led some to theorize that the window was staged to support the abduction narrative, with Kate as a key player. Kate's relationship with the media was complex. She faced relentless coverage, with British tabloids alternating between sympathy and accusation. Her decision to keep Cuddle Cat close, even after cadaver dogs detected the scent of death on it, was particularly controversial. To Kate, it was a connection to Madleen. To skeptics, it was suspicious. Her involvement in Madelein's fund, which funded private investigators and awareness campaigns, was seen by supporters as a mother's tireless effort, but by critics as a calculated move to control the narrative. The intense scrutiny of Kate was not just about her actions, but also her identity as a mother. Society often expects grieving mothers to display overt emotion, and Kate's restraint didn't fit that mold. Psychologists later explained that her calm could be a coping mechanism, a way to function under unimaginable stress. Yet, the court of public opinion was unforgiving, with online forums dissecting her every word and gesture. Kate McCann's role in the Madleen case is central to understanding the theories we'll explore. Her discovery of the disappearance, her media presence, and her actions under interrogation shaped how the public and investigators viewed her. Was she a heartbroken mother doing everything to find her daughter, or was she hiding something? As we move forward, we'll examine the three main theories about Kate's involvement, starting with the idea that she helped Gerry conceal Madelein's death. Stay with us as we unpack the evidence and the truth behind these claims. Let's dive into the first major theory surrounding Kate McCann's role in the disappearance of her daughter, Madeleine McCann, that Madleen died in apartment 5A in Praia da Luz, Portugal, and Kate, working with her husband Gerry, hid her body to avoid legal or social consequences, staging a kidnapping to cover it up. This theory, one of the most controversial in the case, paints Kate not just as a grieving mother, but as a key player in a deliberate deception. It's a theory that has gripped the public imagination, fueled by media frenzy and online speculation. But does it hold up under scrutiny? Let's break it down, focusing on Kate's actions, the evidence, and the counterarguments that challenge this narrative. The theory suggests that on the evening of May 3, 2007, Madleen died in the McCann's holiday apartment, possibly due to an accident, like a fall, or an overdose of sedatives allegedly given to help her sleep. Rather than reporting the death, Kate and Gerry, both trained doctors, decided to conceal the body to protect their reputations or avoid charges of manslaughter or negligence. To support this, they allegedly staged a kidnapping by opening the bedroom window and reporting Madelein's disappearance to the police. Kate's role is central. As the one who discovered Madleen missing and reported the open window, she's seen by proponents as either complicit in the cover-up or coerced by Gerry to go along with it. This theory originated from several sources, but the most influential is The Truth of the Lie, a 2008 book by Amaral, the former lead investigator for the Portuguese police. Amaral argued that Madleen likely died in the apartment and that her parents, including Kate, were involved in hiding the truth. His claims, though lacking definitive evidence, resonated with a public hungry for answers in a case with few solid leads. The media, particularly British tabloids, amplified these ideas, scrutinizing Kate's every move. Social media platforms like X and Reddit became hotbeds for speculation, with users pointing to Kate's demeanor and actions as proof of her involvement. The fact that Kate and Gerry were briefly named Argados by the Portuguese police in 2007 further fueled the theory, though they were cleared in July 2008 due to insufficient evidence. Let's examine the key arguments supporting this theory, starting with the findings of cadaver dogs. In August 2007, two British sniffer dogs, one trained to detect blood and another to detect the scent of human remains, were brought to Praia da Luz. They alerted to traces in apartment 5A, where the McCanns stayed, specifically on the floor, behind a sofa, and on curtains. More alarmingly for Kate, the cadaver dog signaled on her clothes. Madeleine's stuffed toy, Cuddle Cat, which Kate often carried, and the trunk of a rental car the McCanns used 25 days after Madeleine's disappearance. These findings led some to conclude that Madeleine died in the apartment and that Kate, aware of this, helped move or conceal her body. The dog's alerts were a bombshell, suggesting physical evidence of death that implicated Kate directly. Next, proponents point to inconsistencies in the statements given by Kate, Gerry, and their friends, the Tapas 7. On the night of May 3, the group claimed they took turns checking on their children during dinner. However, timelines provided by Kate and others showed minor discrepancies, such as the exact times of checks or who saw whom when. Kate reported discovering Madeleine's absence around 10 p.m., but details about the state of the window, open or ajar, and door varied slightly. For those supporting the theory, these inconsistencies suggest Kate was part of a fabricated story to cover up a death in the apartment. Kate's behavior also comes under intense scrutiny. Critics argue she appeared too calm in media interviews, lacking the overt emotional distress expected of a mother whose child had just vanished. Her decision to continue holding Cuddle Cat after the cadaver dog's alert was seen as particularly odd. Why keep an item potentially linked to death? Additionally, during her September 2007 interrogation as an arguida, Kate refused to answer 48 questions from the Portuguese police, following her lawyer's advice. This refusal was interpreted by some as evidence she was hiding something, possibly to protect herself or Gerry. Her calm demeanor and selective silence became focal points for suspicion, with online forums dissecting her as cold or calculating. The open window Kate reported is another pillar of the theory. She claimed the window was wide open with the shutter raised, suggesting an intruder had entered to abduct Madeleine. However, investigators found no signs of forced entry, no fingerprints, DNA, or damage on the shutter. The only fingerprints on the window belonged to Kate, consistent with her checking it after discovering Madeleine's absence. This led some to speculate that Kate or Gerry opened the window to stage a kidnapping scene, with Kate's report being a deliberate part of the deception. Now, let's turn to the counterarguments, which challenge the validity of this theory and Kate's alleged role. First, the cadaver dog findings, while compelling, are not conclusive. Forensic analysis of the blood and scent traces failed to confirm they belonged to Madeleine. Some samples were inconclusive, while others could have come from prior occupants of the apartment or unrelated sources. Experts in forensic science note that cadaver dogs, though highly trained, can produce false positives, especially in environments like a rental apartment with multiple occupants. The alerts on Kate's clothes and Cuddle Cat could stem from contamination or misinterpretation, as no DNA evidence definitively linked them to Madeleine's death. Without corroborating physical evidence, the dog findings alone are insufficient to implicate Kate. The inconsistencies in statements are also less damning than they appear. Psychologists explain that in high-stress situations like a child's disappearance, memory can be unreliable, leading to minor discrepancies in timelines or details. The variations in Kate's and the Tapas 7's accounts, such as exact check times, are typical of human recollection under duress and don't necessarily indicate a coordinated lie. Kate's report of the open window aligns with her immediate panic, and the lack of clarity about its state fully open or ajar, can be attributed to the chaos of the moment rather than a deliberate cover-up. Kate's behavior, a cornerstone of the theory, has been widely misinterpreted. Psychologists emphasize that grief manifests differently in individuals. Kate's calm demeanor in interviews could reflect a coping mechanism, a need to stay composed for her twins, or the pressure of constant media scrutiny. Her attachment to Cuddle Cat is easily explained as a mother clinging to a tangible connection to her missing daughter, not a suspicious act. Her refusal to answer 48 police questions was a strategic decision advised by her lawyer to avoid self-incrimination, a common practice in legal proceedings, especially in a foreign system where nuances could be misconstrued. Notably, Kate did answer the direct question about harming Madleen, firmly stating, no, undermining claims of outright concealment. The window argument also falls apart under scrutiny. The absence of intruder evidence doesn't prove staging. An abductor could have acted quickly, leaving no trace, or entered through an unlocked door. Kate's fingerprints on the window are consistent with her checking it after discovering Madelein's absence, not necessarily opening it to fake a crime scene. Staging such a scenario in a crowded resort under intense public and police attention would require extraordinary planning and composure, which seems implausible for a couple in a state of panic. Perhaps the most compelling counterargument is the logistical improbability of the theory. Kate and Gerry, both medical professionals, would likely prioritize saving Madleen if an accident occurred, given their training. As Sky News crime reporter Martin Brunt argued, it's unlikely two doctors would opt to hide a body rather than seek help. Disposing of a body in Praia da Luz, a busy tourist area, while evading notice and organizing a fake kidnapping, would demand a level of calculation and resources beyond what a distraught couple could manage in mere hours. The rental car, used 25 days after the disappearance, further complicates the timeline. How could Kate and Gerry hide a body for weeks without detection? Finally, official investigations cast serious doubt on the theory. The Portuguese police cleared Kate and Gerry as suspects in July 2008 due to a lack of evidence. Subsequent investigations by British police, Operation Grange, and German authorities, 2020, have focused on an external suspect, a man with a criminal history of theft and child abuse, believed to have acted alone. No credible evidence has emerged since 2007 linking Kate to a cover-up. Her continued efforts through Madelein's Fund, raising awareness and funds to find her daughter, suggest a mother driven by hope, not guilt. In conclusion, the theory that Kate McCann helped Gerry conceal Madelein's death relies heavily on circumstantial evidence and subjective interpretations of her behavior. The cadaver dog findings, inconsistent statements, calm demeanor, and window report don't hold up against forensic, psychological, and logistical scrutiny. Social media and media outlets, amplified by Amaral's book, have kept this theory alive, but it lacks the concrete evidence needed to be credible. Kate's actions, when viewed through the lens of a grieving mother under pressure, appear far less sinister. As we move to the next theory, we'll explore whether Kate was protecting Gerry out of loyalty or fear. Stay tuned. Having explored the theory that Kate and Gerry together concealed Madelein's death, we now turn to a related but distinct hypothesis, that Kate knew or suspected Gerry was involved in Madelein's disappearance or death, but chose to hide this truth to protect her husband, their family, or their shared reputation. This theory shifts the focus to Kate's emotional and psychological state, suggesting she acted out of loyalty, fear, or pressure rather than direct complicity. It's a narrative that paints Kate as a conflicted figure, torn between truth and family. Let's unpack its origins, the arguments implicating Kate, and why this theory struggles to hold up under scrutiny. This hypothesis posits that on May 3, 2007, Madeleine McCann vanished from apartment 5EA due to an incident involving Gerry, perhaps an accident, negligence, or something more deliberate. Kate, aware or suspicious of Gerry's role, allegedly chose to remain silent or support his version of events, prioritizing her husband, their twins, or their public image as respected doctors. Unlike the previous theory, which sees Kate as an active participant in hiding a body, this one emphasizes her as a protector, possibly under emotional duress or bound by marital loyalty. The theory suggests Kate's actions, her public statements, media appearances, and interactions with police were shaped by this need to shield Gerry, even at the cost of withholding critical information about Madelein's fate. The origins of this theory lie in the intense media and public scrutiny following Madelein's disappearance. British tabloids and international news outlets relentlessly analyzed Kate's every word and gesture, searching for signs of deception. Social media platforms amplified these suspicions, with users speculating that Kate's demeanor and choices reflected knowledge of a darker truth. The 2008 book The Truth of the Lie by Amaral further fueled this narrative. While Amaral's book primarily suggested Madleen died in the apartment, and both parents covered it up, it also sparked discussions about Kate's potential role as a protector of Gerry. Though not directly accusing Kate of shielding Gerry, Amaral's claims about the parents' involvement opened the door to online theories about her emotional motivations. The fact that Kate and Gerry were briefly named arguidos in 2007 added weight to these speculations, as did the media's focus on Kate's psychological state under the pressure of losing her daughter and facing global attention. Let's explore the key arguments implicating Kate in this theory. First, her behavior in the aftermath of Madeleen's disappearance drew significant criticism. In media interviews, Kate often appeared composed, speaking clearly about the case and the family's efforts to find Madleen. To some, this calmness seemed inappropriate for a mother whose child had vanished, suggesting she might be hiding knowledge of Gerry's involvement. Her continued attachment to Cuddle Cat, Madeleen's favorite stuffed toy, was particularly scrutinized. Critics argued that holding on to this item, especially after cadaver dogs flagged it, was odd, implying Kate knew it was linked to Madeleen's fate, but kept it to maintain a facade of innocence. Online discussions on platforms like X framed her composure as a calculated effort to protect Gerry, portraying her as a loyal wife suppressing her own doubts. Second, Kate's refusal to answer police questions became a focal point. In September 2007, during her interrogation as an arguida, Kate declined to respond to 48 questions from the Portuguese police, following her lawyer's advice. This silence was interpreted by some as evidence that she was protecting Gerry, perhaps aware of his role in an incident that led to Madeleen's disappearance. Social media users and commentators suggested that Kate's refusal to cooperate indicated she was prioritizing her husband over revealing the truth, possibly to preserve their family unit or avoid legal consequences. This argument paints Kate as someone under emotional pressure, choosing loyalty over candor. Third, cadaver dog findings added fuel to the theory. In August 2007, British sniffer dogs alerted to the scent of human remains on Kate's clothes and Cuddle Cat, as well as in apartment 5A and the McCann's rental car, used 25 days after Madleen vanished. These alerts led some to speculate that Kate was aware of Madeleen's death, potentially caused by Gerry, and was complicit in keeping it secret. The presence of the scent on her personal items suggested to proponents that she had contact with evidence of death, reinforcing the idea that she was shielding Gerry by not disclosing what she knew. Finally, the McCann's public unity is cited as evidence. Kate and Gerry consistently presented a united front in media appearances, statements, and their work with Madeleen's fund. Their lack of public disagreement or blame was seen by some as suspicious, suggesting Kate was deliberately aligning with Gerry to protect him. Online forums speculated that this unity reflected Kate's decision to stand by her husband, even if she suspected his involvement, driven by love, fear of family breakdown, or concern for their professional reputations. Now, let's examine the counterarguments, which dismantle this theory's foundation. First, Kate's behavior can be explained through a psychological lens. Experts in grief and trauma note that individuals respond to loss in varied ways. Kate's composed demeanor in interviews likely served as a coping mechanism, allowing her to function under immense stress and media scrutiny while caring for her twins. Her attachment to Cuddle Cat was not a calculated act, but a natural response for a mother seeking comfort through a connection to her missing daughter. This emotional attachment, far from indicating guilt, reflects a personal need to hold on to Madeleen's memory, countering the claim that her behavior was inappropriate or suggestive of hidden knowledge. Kate's refusal to answer 48 police questions was a strategic legal decision, not a sign of protecting Gerry. In high-stakes investigations, lawyers often advise clients to avoid answering questions to prevent misinterpretation, especially in a foreign legal system like Portugal's. Kate's silence was a precaution, not an admission of guilt. Crucially, when directly asked if she had harmed Madleen, Kate responded, no, showing she was willing to address the core issue. This undermines the idea that her silence was meant to shield Gerry, as it aligns with standard legal practice, rather than a cover-up driven by loyalty. The cadaver dog findings, while striking, lack reliability. Forensic tests on the traces found on Kate's clothes, Cuddle Cat, and other locations failed to confirm they belonged to Madleen. The samples were either inconclusive or could have come from unrelated sources, such as prior occupants of the apartment or car. Experts highlight that cadaver dogs can produce false positives, particularly in environments with multiple users. Without DNA evidence linking the scents to Madleen, the alerts on Kate's items do not substantiate claims that she knew of a death or was protecting Gerry. This lack of forensic confirmation weakens the theory significantly. The argument about the McCann's public unity also falters. Kate and Gerry's consistent public front can be explained as a natural response to a shared tragedy. As parents, they likely prioritized presenting a united image to focus on finding Madleen and supporting their twins, not covering up a crime. There is no evidence that Gerry was involved in Madeleen's disappearance, rendering the idea of Kate protecting him speculative. The theory assumes Gerry's guilt without data, and Kate's supposed motivation, loyalty or fear, remains a conjecture unsupported by concrete facts. Finally, the logistical implausibility of the theory is a major hurdle. If Kate suspected Gerry's involvement, she would have had to participate in or condone a complex cover-up, potentially involving hiding evidence or maintaining silence under intense public and police scrutiny. Praia da Luz, a bustling tourist area, offered little opportunity for such secrecy. As a doctor and mother, Kate would likely have prioritized seeking help for Madleen if an accident occurred, not concealing it to protect Gerry. The notion that she would endure such emotional and psychological strain to shield her husband, without any evidence of his wrongdoing, strains credibility. We're continuing our deep dive into the Madeleine McCann case, focusing on Kate McCann and Madeleen's disappearance on May 3, 2007, from apartment 5A in Praia da Luz, Portugal, was not a random abduction or accident, but part of a larger scheme involving a human trafficking network or a power conspiracy, with Kate either complicit or coerced into participation. This theory moves beyond the family dynamics of previous hypotheses, suggesting Kate was entangled, willingly or under pressure, in a shadowy organization or plot. It's a narrative fueled by intrigue and suspicion, but does it hold up? Let's explore the origins of this theory, the arguments implicating Kate, and why it fails to withstand scrutiny. This hypothesis posits that Madleen, a 3-year-old British girl, was taken as part of an organized operation, possibly a human trafficking ring or a conspiracy involving powerful figures like politicians or secretive agencies. Kate McCann, as Madeleen's mother, is alleged to have been involved, either knowingly participating or coerced into silence to protect herself, her family, or influential allies. Unlike previous theories that focus on Kate's actions within the family, this one places her in a broader, more complex web, suggesting she either collaborated with a criminal network or was manipulated by powerful forces to cover up the truth. The theory speculates that Madeleen's disappearance was orchestrated, with Kate's public actions masking her knowledge or compliance under duress. The origins of this theory are rooted in the chaotic information landscape surrounding the case. Social media platforms have been a fertile ground for conspiracy theories, with users weaving elaborate narratives based on limited facts. Posts on these platforms often point to the McCanns' prominence and connections as evidence of a larger plot. Misinformation and unverified claims on less reputable websites have further fueled speculation, suggesting links to shadowy organizations without concrete evidence. The intense media coverage following Madeleen's disappearance, particularly in the UK, amplified these ideas, as did the public's fascination with Kate's social connections. The 2008 book The Truth of the Lie by Amaral, while primarily focused on an accidental death, indirectly contributed by questioning the official narrative, opening the door to broader conspiracies. The McCann's brief status as Arguidos in 2007 added to the suspicion, though this is not a central focus here to avoid overlap with prior sections. Let's examine the key arguments implicating Kate. First, her social relationships drew significant attention. As doctors, Kate and Gerry had connections with influential figures, including politicians and business people who supported Madeleine's fund, a charity established to aid the search for their daughter. High-profile endorsements and financial contributions from these figures led some to suspect that the McCanns had a protective umbrella, shielding them from scrutiny. The involvement of Clarence Mitchell, a seasoned public relations expert with ties to the British government, as their media advisor shortly after the disappearance, was particularly contentious. Online commentators on X and Reddit suggested Mitchell's role indicated intervention by powerful entities, with Kate's cooperation implying she was either complicit or coerced into aligning with a hidden agenda. This argument posits that Kate's ties to these figures suggest she was part of or manipulated by a larger conspiracy. Second, Kate's behavior is cited as evidence. Her composed demeanor during media appearances, where she spoke articulately about the case and the family's efforts, was seen by some as a sign of concealment or external influence. The rapid organization of a media campaign, including Madeleine's fund and global appeals, was interpreted as suspiciously strategic, suggesting Kate was either hiding her knowledge of a conspiracy or acting under orders from powerful figures. Social media users argued that her ability to maintain a public presence while under such stress indicated she was either complicit in a planned operation or coerced to present a controlled narrative, possibly to protect a trafficking network or influential allies. Third, cadaver dog findings are used to bolster the theory. In August 2007, British sniffer dogs alerted to the scent of human remains on Kate's clothes and Madeleine's stuffed toy, Cuddle Cat, as well as in apartment 5A and the McCann's rental car. Proponents suggest these findings imply Kate was aware of Madeleine's fate, perhaps a death linked to a trafficking operation, and was complicit in keeping it secret, either willingly or under duress. The presence of these scents on her personal items is seen as evidence that she had contact with incriminating material, supporting the idea of her involvement in a larger scheme. Now, let's turn to the counterarguments, which dismantle these claims. First, Kate's social relationships, while notable, are not evidence of a conspiracy. The support from politicians, business people, and Clarence Mitchell can be explained as a natural response to a high-profile tragedy. Madeleine's fund was established to raise awareness and resources for finding Madeleine, attracting endorsements from public figures moved by the case. Mitchell, a skilled PR professional, was hired to manage the overwhelming media attention, not to orchestrate a cover-up. There's no evidence linking these connections to a trafficking network or power conspiracy. The idea of an umbrella protecting Kate is speculative, driven by online narratives rather than documented proof. Kate's behavior, far from indicating complicity or coercion, aligns with a mother's response to crisis. Psychologists note that individuals under stress may appear composed to cope with trauma or manage responsibilities, such as caring for Kate's twins, Sean and Emily. Her rapid organization of a media campaign reflects a proactive effort to keep Madeleine's case in the public eye, not a calculated move to obscure a conspiracy. The suggestion that her actions were dictated by external forces ignores the context of her situation. A parent desperate to find her child. The public's tendency to view her composure as suspicious often stems from unrealistic expectations of how a grieving mother should behave, rather than evidence of involvement in a larger scheme. The cadaver dog findings, while intriguing, are inconclusive. Forensic tests on the traces found on Kate's clothes, Cuddle Cat, and other locations failed to confirm any link to Madeleine. The samples were either inconclusive or could have originated from unrelated sources, such as prior occupants of the apartment or car. Experts emphasize that cadaver dogs can produce false positives, particularly in a rental environment with multiple users. Without DNA evidence tying the scents to Madleen, the alerts do not substantiate claims that Kate was aware of a death linked to a trafficking network or conspiracy. This argument relies on assumption rather than fact. Crucially, there is no evidence linking Kate to a human trafficking network or power conspiracy. No credible documents, witness statements, or investigative findings from the Portuguese police, British Operation Grange, or German authorities support the existence of such a scheme. The theory thrives on misinformation spread through social and fringe websites, but lacks any verifiable data. The McCann's prominence as doctors explains their connections, not involvement in a criminal or political plot. The absence of any tangible link to an organized network undermines the entire premise. Finally, official investigations point to a simpler explanation. In 2020, German police identified a suspect, a man with a history of theft and child abuse, who lived in the Algarve from 1995 to 2007. Authorities believe he acted alone, treating the case as a murder unrelated to a trafficking ring or conspiracy. This focus on an individual perpetrator, supported by ongoing investigations as of July 2025, contradicts the idea of a larger scheme involving Kate. The Portuguese police cleared the McCanns in 2008, and no subsequent evidence has implicated them in organized crime or a cover-up. As we continue our exploration of the Madeleine McCann case, we turn our focus to a critical aspect: Kate McCann's behavior in the wake of her daughter's disappearance. Kate, a 39-year-old doctor and mother of three, became a lightning rod for public and media scrutiny, with her actions dissected for signs of guilt or deception. This section analyzes key elements of her behavior: her calm demeanor, attachment to Madelein's stuffed toy, cuddle cat, refusal to answer police questions, involvement in Madelein's fund, experience under media pressure, and response to accusations. By examining these through psychological, legal, and social lenses, we aim to understand Kate's actions and challenge the misinterpretations that have shaped public perception. Let's dive in. First, let's address Kate's calm demeanor, which became a focal point of criticism. In the days and weeks following Madelein's disappearance, Kate appeared in numerous media interviews, often speaking with a composed tone and measured words. To many, this restraint seemed at odds with the expected image of a distraught mother, leading to speculation that she was hiding something, perhaps knowledge of Madelein's fate or involvement in a cover-up. However, psychologists who study grief and trauma offer a different perspective. They note that individuals process loss in diverse ways, and calmness can be a coping mechanism, particularly for someone like Kate, a trained medical professional accustomed to high-pressure situations. Faced with the unimaginable loss of her daughter and the need to care for her 2-year-old twins, Sean and Amelie, Kate likely suppressed overt displays of emotion to maintain functionality. This composure allowed her to engage with the media, organize search efforts, and support her family, but it was misread by the public as coldness or detachment. The expectation that a grieving mother must always appear visibly shattered ignores the complexity of human responses to trauma, and Kate's calm exterior reflects resilience, not guilt. Next, Kate's attachment to Cuddle Cat, Madelein's beloved pink stuffed toy, drew significant attention. Kate was frequently seen clutching Cuddle Cat during interviews and public appearances, a choice that some found suspicious, especially after cadaver dogs alerted to it in August 2007. Critics argued that her insistence on keeping the toy suggested she was concealing knowledge of Madelein's fate. Yet, this interpretation overlooks the emotional significance of the item. Cuddle Cat was one of Madelein's most cherished possessions, a source of comfort for a 3-year-old girl. For Kate, holding it was a tangible way to feel connected to her missing daughter, a common behavior among parents grieving the loss of a child. Psychologists explain that such objects often serve as anchors, helping individuals cope with absence by maintaining a physical link to their loved one. Kate's decision to carry Cuddle Cat was an act of solace, not a calculated move to deflect suspicion. The public's tendency to view this as suspicious stems from a lack of understanding about grief, amplified by media narratives that sensationalized her every action. Kate's refusal to answer police questions during her September 2007 interrogation as an arguida was another point of contention. When questioned by the Portuguese police, Kate declined to respond to 48 questions, acting on her lawyer's advice. This silence was widely interpreted as a sign that she was withholding critical information, fueling theories about her involvement or protection of others. However, this action must be viewed in its legal context. Refusing to answer questions is a common strategy in high-stakes investigations, particularly in a foreign legal system where language barriers and procedural differences can lead to misinterpretations. Kate's lawyer advised silence to avoid self-incrimination, a standard precaution that does not imply guilt. When directly asked if she had harmed Madleen, Kate answered unequivocally, no, demonstrating her willingness to address the core accusation. Her silence on other questions was a protective measure, not an admission of wrongdoing. Misconstruing this as evidence of deception ignores the complexities of legal strategy and the pressure Kate faced as a suspect in a foreign country. Kate's active involvement in Madeleen's fund, established shortly after the disappearance, is a testament to her commitment to finding her daughter. The fund, which raised millions to support the search, saw Kate at the forefront, coordinating campaigns, engaging with supporters, and hiring private investigators. Her tireless efforts included public appeals, media interviews, and international outreach, all aimed at keeping Madeleen's case alive. This activism counters narratives of guilt, as it reflects a mother's relentless drive to seek answers. Critics have sometimes viewed the fund's rapid establishment and high-profile support as suspiciously strategic. But this ignores the urgency of the situation. Kate's proactive role was a natural response to a parent's worst nightmare, channeling her grief into action. The fund's success, backed by donations from ordinary people and prominent figures, underscores her dedication, not a hidden agenda. Her continued involvement, even 18 years later as of July 2025, demonstrates an unwavering hope that Madleen might be found, challenging claims that she was complicit or apathetic. The intense media pressure Kate faced cannot be overstated. From the moment Madleen vanished, the McCanns were thrust into a global spotlight, with every word, gesture, and decision scrutinized by tabloids, broadcasters, and online platforms like X and Reddit. Kate, as the mother, bore the brunt of this attention, with her appearance, tone, and actions dissected for signs of guilt. British tabloids oscillated between sympathy and accusation, often portraying her as either a saint or a suspect. Social media amplified these narratives, with users speculating about her motives based on fleeting moments in interviews. This relentless scrutiny shaped public perception, often unfairly. Kate's efforts to maintain composure under this pressure were misinterpreted as detachment, while her emotional moments were sometimes dismissed as performative. The media's portrayal created a feedback loop, where public suspicion fueled further coverage, distorting the reality of a mother navigating an unprecedented crisis. This pressure likely influenced how Kate presented herself, as she balanced personal grief with the need to advocate for Madleen. Finally, Kate's response to accusations shows her determination to protect her family's integrity. She and Gerry faced numerous claims, including those from Gons Allo Amaral's The Truth of the Lie, which suggested they were involved in Madeleen's death. The McCanns took legal action against Amaral and other outlets for spreading unproven allegations, winning several defamation cases. These lawsuits, pursued over years, reflect Kate's refusal to let baseless accusations define her family's narrative. Rather than remaining silent, she and Gerry fought to clear their names, a process that required significant emotional and financial resources. Their legal victories, including rulings against Amaral, underscore the lack of evidence supporting claims against Kate. Her persistence in these battles, alongside her work with Madeleen's fund, paints a picture of a mother committed to justice and truth, not concealment. Before we reach our conclusion, It's critical to confront one of the most powerful, yet often overlooked forces, shaping public opinion in the Madeleine McCann case, the invisible societal script for how a mother is expected to grieve. Kate McCann was not just battling the horror of her daughter's disappearance. She was also facing another, far less tangible enemy. That enemy was an unforgiving public expectation that a real mother must behave in a very particular way, emotional, uncontrolled, visibly broken, to be perceived as innocent. Anything less than that, and suspicion takes hold. From the moment Kate appeared on television holding Madeleine's stuffed animal, Cuddle Cat, speaking calmly and precisely, she was judged. Not necessarily for what she said, but for how she said it. Her composed demeanor, her lack of tears in certain interviews, and her polished appearance became evidence, not of strength, but of guilt in the eyes of many. The public and media, knowingly or not, began to measure her innocence not by facts, but by how closely she fit the archetype of a devastated mother. The emotional script was clear: grief must be raw, messy, and theatrical. Kate's failure to perform this kind of visible sorrow left many viewers unsettled. Why wasn't she screaming? Why did she look composed? Why didn't she break down in front of the cameras? This judgment reveals more about us than it does about her. In many cultures, especially in the West, women are socialized to be emotive caretakers. When their children are harmed, they are expected to fall apart. If they don't, the implication is chilling: perhaps they didn't love their child enough. Or worse, perhaps they're hiding something. These expectations are rooted in centuries-old stereotypes about women's emotionality and morality. But when grief manifests as restraint, as it did for Kate, the same society that reveres maternal strength begins to punish it. Psychologists argue that there is no universal way to grieve, and certainly no correct emotional reaction to trauma. Yet the public often clings to visual cues. This is especially true when the grieving parent is a woman. Fathers are often granted emotional distance or stoicism, but mothers are expected to bleed emotion. The gendered nature of these expectations became strikingly apparent in the McCann case. Gerry McCann, though also scrutinized, was largely shielded from the intensity of judgment that Kate faced. Why? Because society does not hold fathers to the same standard of performative grief. Kate became the lightning rod, not because she did anything unusual, but because she didn't behave the way people expected a mother to behave. Other high-profile cases reveal similar patterns. In 1994, Susan Smith appeared on national television pleading for the return of her abducted sons, sobbing uncontrollably in front of cameras. She was widely sympathized with, until it was revealed she had drowned her children herself. Her tears bought her time and public compassion. In contrast, Kate McCann's calmness was interpreted as coldness. Then there was Casey Anthony, who was accused of killing her daughter Kaylee in 2008. Despite numerous red flags and odd behaviors, including clubbing shortly after her daughter's disappearance, she was acquitted. Many commentators noted that her youth, appearance, and at times emotional displays may have swayed some jurors. In both cases, performative emotion, or the lack of it, had a measurable impact on public perception and judicial outcomes. Kate's crime, in the eyes of many, was not legal but theatrical. She didn't act like a mother should. This narrative was reinforced daily by tabloids and television commentators who picked apart her clothing, her tone, her posture. Was she too stiff? Too robotic? Too well put together? These critiques were not rooted in forensic evidence, but in visual discomfort, a subtle, culturally ingrained bias that demands women display vulnerability to be believed. Social media only intensified this phenomenon. On platforms like Reddit and Facebook, users posted frame-by-frame analyses of Kate's interviews, commenting on the way her eyes moved or how her voice sounded when she mentioned Madeleine's name. These discussions weren't grounded in any credible body language science. They were fueled by gut reactions and cultural conditioning. Entire YouTube channels emerged dedicated to dissecting her demeanor, with titles like Kate McCann, Guilty or Just Cold. Such content fed a growing public appetite for amateur sleuthing that blurred the line between suspicion and slander. What gets lost in all this is the unimaginable reality Kate McCann was enduring. She had lost a child under mysterious, terrifying circumstances in a foreign country. She was subjected to a relentless media onslaught, foreign police interrogations, public shaming, and online abuse. And yet, she remained focused on one mission: finding her daughter. For this, she was vilified. Her resilience, rather than being praised, was treated as evidence of duplicity. The perfect mother trap is one that few women can escape. If you cry too much, you're unstable. If you cry too little, you're cold. If you speak eloquently, you're rehearsed. If you falter, you're weak. Kate, whether she knew it or not, walked into this cultural minefield the moment she appeared on camera. And no matter what she did, she was destined to disappoint a public conditioned to see grief in only one form. Legal experts have weighed in on this dynamic, warning that public opinion, shaped by emotion, not evidence, can contaminate real investigations. When attention focuses more on someone's facial expressions than on forensic facts, truth gets pushed aside in favor of compelling narratives. In Kate's case, her behavior became the story, rather than the disappearance of her daughter. She went from being a mother in mourning to a defendant in the court of public opinion. This misdirection has real consequences. It diverts attention from credible leads, undermines investigative resources, and re-traumatizes victims. It also perpetuates harmful stereotypes that can shape how other women are treated in future cases. If we accept that there is only one way for a mother to grieve, we close the door on empathy and replace it with judgment. Kate McCann's experience reminds us that public scrutiny often says more about our discomfort with ambiguity than about the person under the microscope. We crave neat villains and tidy explanations. A mother who grieves quietly threatens that. She complicates the narrative. But in real life, trauma is messy, grief is unpredictable, and silence does not equal guilt. As we prepare to conclude our exploration, we must ask ourselves, are we truly seeking the truth, or are we seeking confirmation of our own biases? Have the stories we've believed about Kate McCann been built on evidence or expectation? Before we draw final conclusions, let us challenge the lens through which we viewed her. Because understanding the Madeleine McCann case is not just about examining facts. It's about confronting the subtle, insidious ways judgment seeps in, not through law books or courtrooms, but through our own hearts and screens. Let's take that awareness with us into the final part of this story. We've reached the final part of our deep dive into the Madeleine McCann case, focusing on Kate McCann's role in one of the most enduring mysteries of our time. Over the past sections, we've explored three major theories: that Kate helped Gerry conceal Madeleine's death, that she knew Gerry was involved but protected him, and that she was entangled in a human trafficking network or power conspiracy. We've also analyzed Kate's behavior, her composure, attachment to Cuddle Cat, legal silence, activism through Madeleine's fund, and resilience under media scrutiny. Now, it's time to tie it all together, reflect on what we've learned, and consider where the truth might lie. Let's summarize the key points, address the broader context, and leave you with a call to action as we continue the search for answers. The Madeleine McCann case, sparked by her disappearance on May 3, 2007, from apartment 5A in Praia da Luz, Portugal, has generated countless theories, many of which center on Kate McCann. The first theory we examined suggested that Madeleine died in the apartment, perhaps by accident or sedative overdose, and that Kate, alongside Gerry, hid her body and staged a kidnapping. This idea, rooted in Gonçalo Amaral's book, The Truth of the Lie, and amplified by media, leaned on cadaver dog findings, Kate's calm demeanor, her refusal to answer police questions, and the open window she reported. However, forensic tests failed to confirm the dog alerts. Psychological insights explained her composure. Her silence was a legal strategy, and the window's state didn't prove staging. The theory lacks concrete evidence and relies on speculative interpretations of Kate's actions. The second theory proposed that Kate knew or suspected Gerry's involvement in Madelein's disappearance or death, but chose to protect him, driven by emotional loyalty or fear for their family's stability. Fueled by media scrutiny and online forums, this hypothesis pointed to Kate's behavior, her silence during questioning, cadaver dog alerts, and the couple's public unity. Yet, these arguments were debunked. Her composure was a coping mechanism, her silence was legally advised, the dog findings were inconclusive, and no evidence linked Gerry to any wrongdoing. This theory, like the first, hinges on assumptions about Kate's motives without substantive proof. The third theory ventured into conspiracy territory, suggesting Kate was involved in, or coerced by a human trafficking network or power conspiracy. Originating from social media platforms, this idea highlighted Kate's connections to influential figures, her media campaign, and the same cadaver dog findings. Counter-arguments showed that her social ties were for finding Madleen. Her behavior reflected maternal effort, and no evidence supported a larger scheme. The investigative focus on a lone German suspect further undermines this narrative. All three theories share a common flaw. They rely on circumstantial clues and subjective judgments, amplified by media and misinformation, rather than verifiable facts. The role of media and social media in shaping these theories cannot be overstated. From the outset, the McCann case was a global phenomenon, with British tabloids and international outlets dissecting Kate's every move. Her composure, choice of words, and even her appearance were scrutinized, often framed as evidence of guilt. Platforms became echo chambers, where unverified claims and conspiracy theories proliferated, from amateur sleuths to fringe websites spreading misinformation. This environment distorted public perception, turning Kate's grief into a spectacle and her actions into supposed proof of deception. The media's hunger for sensationalism and the public's desire for answers fueled narratives that lacked grounding in evidence, overshadowing the real tragedy of a missing child. Current investigations, as of July 2025, offer a clearer path forward. In 2020, German police identified a suspect, a man with a history of theft and child abuse who lived in the Algarve from 1995 to 2007. Authorities believe he acted alone, treating the case as a murder, with no evidence linking him to the McCanns or a larger organization. This focus on an individual perpetrator aligns with the findings of Portuguese and British police, who cleared Kate and Gerry in 2008 due to insufficient evidence. The absence of any concrete data supporting the theories against Kate, whether about concealing a death, protecting Gerry, or involvement in a conspiracy, suggests they are products of speculation rather than reality. Kate's continued efforts through Madelein's fund, alongside legal battles against false claims, reflect a mother's unwavering commitment to finding her daughter, not hiding a crime. So, what can we take away from this? The Madeleine McCann case remains unsolved, but the theories implicating Kate McCann lack the evidence needed to be credible. Cadaver dog alerts, her behavior, and social connections have been thoroughly examined and found wanting. The media and online platforms have played a significant role in perpetuating these narratives, often at the expense of the McCann's humanity. Kate, a doctor and mother, has endured unimaginable loss while facing relentless scrutiny. Yet her actions, organizing search efforts, maintaining hope, and fighting defamation, point to resilience, not guilt. The most plausible explanation, based on current investigations, is that Madeleine was taken by an individual, not as part of a family cover-up or grand conspiracy. This tragedy is a reminder of the need for compassion and focus on facts over speculation. Now, we turn to you, our viewers. What do you think about Kate McCann's role in this case? Have the theories we've explored changed your perspective, or do you have insights to share? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear your take, whether you agree with our analysis or have a different view. Let's keep the conversation respectful and focused on seeking the truth for Madeleine. If this deep dive has shed new light on the case, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell to stay updated on more true crime explorations. Share this video with others who are intrigued by this mystery, and let's keep the discussion alive. Finally, we urge you to approach this case with empathy. The McCanns have lived through a parent's worst nightmare, compounded by years of public judgment. Kate, in particular, has faced accusations that would break many, yet she continues to advocate for Madleen. As we seek answers, let's respect the family's privacy and focus on what matters: finding justice for a little girl who vanished too soon. The truth about Madeleine McCann is still out there, and it's up to all of us to support efforts to uncover it. Thank you for joining us on this journey. Stay curious, stay compassionate, and we'll see you in the next video.